Welcome to this episode of What's Happening Waupaca. I am Joni. We have a pretty special episode today talking about the Rotary and the exchange students. We have Zoe Johnson here, who is from Waupaca and has traveled to Lithuania. Welcome, Zoe.
Thank you.
We have Phil Karstensen here. You are from Germany and you are spending a year here in Waupaca. So thanks for being on here today. You didn't know when you came over here to the United States that you got to be on TV, did you?
No, I wasn't expecting that, no.
So this is a fun surprise.
It is, yes.
And we also have Cheryl Sutton here, who is part of the Rotary and going to be talking some about what the Rotary program has to do with the exchange students. So welcome.
Thank you.
So we're going to get started. I want to talk about the Rotary. I want to talk about, if you know, tell me how this whole foreign exchange student program started with the Rotary.
Well, I don't know the history all that well, but I do know that the Rotary Exchange was created to give young people a chance to live in another country for a year. They get to learn a language, and by living with a host family, then they really get to learn the cultures of another country. And by doing that, then not only as a young person from the United States traveling to another country, they are essentially an ambassador, and they are telling other people, well, this is what it's like to be an American. And also then they learn another culture, so when they come back to the U.S., they can go, well, hey, I lived in Lithuania for a year, or I lived in Germany for a year, and I know a little bit more about what that's like. And it just fosters more understanding between peoples and cultures.
The Rotary has two different programs.
Yes.
So tell us about them, because one is long-term and one is short-term.
Correct. So the long-term exchange is usually about an 11-month program. The student would live in that country for the school year. They would attend a high school, and they generally live with 2 to 3 host families in that country. And the cost for that program is a little bit more, but with that cost covers the airfare, visa, conferences. That's another thing Rotary does very well. The students are so prepared by going to these conferences, and their families go with them as well. So the whole family learns what it might be like and prepares them for the exchange.
And then you have a short term.
We have a short-term program, and I'm glad you mentioned that, because January is the month for short-term exchange application. So the short-term exchange is more of a direct family-to-family exchange. We have countries that the students can choose from, so they have a little bit more choice in the country. And the student from Waupaca would go to the country of their choice, live with the family for 3 to 4 weeks, and then the student from that family comes back to Waupaca and lives in and stays with the host family and learns what it's like to be here in the summer for a few weeks.
And that's just for the summer, and it's a little bit less expensive.
Correct.
And we're going to be talking about actually whether it's more expensive or less expensive to have your students stay in your house for a year versus traveling overseas.
Correct.
We're going to touch on that a little bit later.
Okay.
Next, when we come back, we are going to be talking to Zoe and Phil about the experiences that they have had or are having as guests in another country like Lithuania or here from Germany. We'll be right back. This is What's Happening Waupaca, and I'm Joni.
Waupaca City Parks. Great parks, great people. The city of Waupaca has many parks. It has a swim area with lifeguards on Shadow Lake at South Park, a baseball complex at Swan Park, playgrounds at many of the parks, a sledding hill, a skateboard park, parks with rivers running through them. Many shelters are available for reservation for your gathering. Visit one of the many parks in Waupaca for your enjoyment. Waupaca City Parks, great people. Waupaca Parks, where nature, sports, friends, and family come to meet.
Welcome back to What's Happening Waupaca. We are talking about the Rotary Exchange Program today. We have Zoe Johnson, we have Phil Karstensen.
Right, yeah.
And we have Cheryl Slatton here joining us from the Rotary Club. So Zoe, I want to start with you. You're called a rebounder because
this is my rebound year. I just returned from Lithuania in July.
So tell me a little bit about Lithuania.
Okay, Lithuania is in Eastern Europe next to Poland, just for those that don't know. Some people, I get that question a lot, where's that, or yes. So my exchange year, I spent 1 semester at a high school and 1 semester at the university in the capital city, Vilnius. And I was really lucky because my university credits actually transferred to my current university.
That's very nice.
Yeah.
And I'll bet you that's a question that's asked of the Rotary is,
Yes.
what am I going to be a year behind in school when I come back home?
That is a big question. I took a gap year after high school, so I wasn't really thinking about missing schooling, but those who go during high school, it actually counts. They get all the credits for their high school year.
So tell me about an experience that stands out in your mind from being from Lithuania when you were over there.
Definitely my first few days of the high school, because as most people know, Lithuanian language isn't very popular and it's a very difficult language. So when I first got there, they kind of just threw me into the classrooms and I had no idea what was going on, no one to really help me, but it was an experience and eventually I learned.
Did your host family speak English?
They
So that
did,
you have
but
some-
they encouraged me to try and speak some Lithuanian with them.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
And I'll bet by the end of the year it was natural. for
Not
you to
completely
speak.
natural, but
No?
I learned more, yeah.
Good. Phil, you're from Germany.
Yes.
What part of Germany?
Berlin.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I've been to Berlin.
That's cool.
Yes, I enjoyed that. So what made you want to come on this exchange and spend a year over here?
That's a good question. I've always really liked traveling, seeing other cultures, and that was a main part for me. You know, I've been to the U.S. Once before, but I really wanted to spend a year abroad, experiencing that really actively. I always think it's a very, very different experience from like 3 to 4 weeks to a full year. You really get to understand the country, the culture, the people, and of course, language is also a part of definitely. And then the advantages that you have on from that long-term exchange, which are very big. You know, you really grow up with that. You grow with your problems that you might face, but you know, you kind of come back as a different person. Yeah.
I believe that.
Yeah.
So tell me about something that's happened here in Waupaca. Waupaca is a pretty small town.
Yes.
You know, if you compare that to Berlin, it's
a small difference.
Two different, totally different worlds.
Yes.
But tell me about an adventure or something you've had happen here that particularly sticks out.
There's so many things. With my first host family, I lived on Spencer Lake, so that was very cool. And you know, just being so close to nature, having the lake right there, and you know, being able to go kayaking each day, that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Something that I really enjoyed. Other adventures, I would have to think. I mean, for me, a small adventure was going on the school bus for the first time, you know, because yellow school buses always have been sort of iconic to me.
Yeah.
You know, you see them in movies, but you know, when I saw a yellow school bus for the first time, it looked like it was like stolen from a Hollywood set or something, because it's just so incredibly authentic. You know, that's something I really like, and so it's kind of an everyday adventure.
It's interesting that I grew up
Yes.
getting on the yellow school bus every day, and I never thought twice about it.
Yeah.
So if I sat on a movie set, I'm like, oh yeah, they're from the country, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Thanks for that point of view.
Yeah, I mean, in general, I'm always amazed how incredibly American America is. You know, so many things that really only America does, but I feel like Americans don't really realize that. You know.
So are you saying that we're the only people in the world that have yellow school buses?
I would think so. Correct me if I'm wrong. I've never been to a country which has a yellow school
I think
bus.
so. There wasn't in Lithuania.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, you took public transport to school.
Yeah, we have
right?
public
Yeah,
transportation
yeah,
for
we have public
getting everywhere I needed
Yeah.
to be. Yeah.
Yeah. When we come back for our next segment, we're going to talk about the advantages of doing some traveling like this and how you think it's going to prepare you for your future and how the Rotary, because that's got to be a big push about why the Rotary does it. So we will be right back. You're watching What's Happening Waupaca, and I am Joni.
The Waupaca Area Senior Center is located in downtown Waupaca at 407 School Street. Once you step inside the Senior Center, you'll find it is a hub of activities, from a variety of exercise classes to wood carving, computer classes, shooting pool, education classes, and more. To find out more about Senior Center programs and activities, the website is located at waupacaseniorcenter.com, or their phone number is 715-258-4437. The Waupaca Area Senior Center.
Welcome back to What's Happening Waupaca. I am Joni. Today we are talking with Cheryl Sletton from the Rotary Club of Waupaca. For whatever reason, that word Rotary has been giving me trouble today. And we are talking about the foreign exchange program as far as long-term and short-term. We have Zoe Johnson with us, who traveled to Lithuania. And we have Phil Karstensen, who is here from Germany, from Berlin.
Right.
So I want to talk to all of you about what traveling has done for you and how it has changed your life, because it's bound to have, right, Phil?
Yeah. So I think with, just exchange, but also traveling in general, I think it really makes you understand and also value other cultures, and not really judge them. When you come to the US, obviously there are many differences compared to Germany, and when you first come, you might think that's so much better in Germany, but then at a certain point you kind of learn to understand it, and you might not think, okay, that's better than Germany, or the US is worse, or whatever, but you just just see the differences and value them and see, hey, they're both two great countries, and then you kind of learn to value that diversity. And I think that's a great part of Rotary is understanding for other cultures. You might think, okay, nowadays who needs that? But I mean, it still shows if you watch the news that good.
And I think it's really important to understand that the cultures can be equal. It's not about which one is better, like you just said.
Yes.
It's just about understanding the differences and appreciating that there are differences and that that's okay.
Yeah, exactly.
And you would think in a melting pot like the United States, that would be something that would be natural for all of us. But I don't think it is it, Cheryl?
No, and I think when these students go to another country, they're living with a family, and sometimes they live with more than one family, so they can see that families are different. They're not all the same. Like here in the U.S., my family is different from Zoe's family, and so and they also just learn the culture. They learn what people are really like, and just learning a language when you're surrounded by it all the time is really important.
And you were talking, Zoe, about how you did not know Lithuanian when you went over there.
Yes, like barely anything.
And what was the first word you learned?
Labas, hello.
Oh, see? Please, thank you.
Yes,
Food?
the basics. What I needed to survive, pretty much.
Now you're a rebounder, so you have been back for a while. So as you look back at your time in Lithuania, how do you think it changed your life?
I think it's just a huge advantage to learn a new culture, a new language, and the new perspective of seeing your country from the outside and how other people view it. Mm-hmm. For example, at my university there, I was in a sociology class, and I was the only American. My professor would always be like, hey, USA, answer this for me, or things, and it's just like interesting to see how they view our country and what they know and don't know about us.
Do you think that there are a lot of differences between the reality and what they think about our country?
I would say yes and no. It kind of depends what you're focusing on. Sometimes they only compare to the movies or just the politics that they see on Facebook or something like that.
It would be the little yellow school bus.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's still, I'm going to spend a lot of time wondering why this country is the only one with a yellow school bus. You realize that now, right?
Yeah.
So, do you find that the people over here, Phil, understand Germany, or do you think that it's our perception of it and that that's inaccurate of what Germany actually is?
I think, of course, depending on who you talk to and which backgrounds the person has, but I think most Americans have a very good picture of Germany in general. Of course, when it comes to the details, you might have to help a little, but I think that's what I'm here for, just giving them the expertise and the perspective that I bring, and maybe helping with a few things. But to everyone I talked so far, I only really got a very, very, very nice feedback. Always good conversations, and never really bad sense. It's like, hey, Germany is sucks or something. That really never was the subject at any point. So it really was always a very open and nice conversation that I had with other people.
So as people want to learn about you as much as you want to learn about them,
Yes.
is what you have found.
Yes, right.
So we don't have any naughty people here in the United States? Wouldn't that be nice?
That would be the best.
Yeah. So did you find that in Lithuania too? I mean, you obviously went over there. You wanted to learn much about the culture. Did you choose Lithuania, Zoe, because it is so unknown, or it's not a common, we hear about Russia and we hear about Mexico and Germany and France, but Lithuania doesn't hit the news headlines very often.
Not usually. I actually did not choose Lithuania. It was kind of a random thing, and I ended up going there. Wasn't what I was expecting, but it turned out to be a great year.
Good. So you found that they wanted to know as much about you as you did about them, the same as Phil
Usually,
has
yes.
found over
Yeah.
here. That's great. So, is this why the Rotary does what
That-
they do, Cheryl?
That's exactly why they do that, because when you have these exchanges one-on-one or in a community, that's how we all really learn about each other, and it helps just dispel, any kind of stereotypes people might have or misconceptions, and it just lets people really connect, and it just sort of spreads goodwill and lets these young people learn how to be ambassadors into, to another country for their country.
Do you think, because the world seems to be getting smaller,
Yes.
you and I are not all that different in age,
No.
and when we were very young, the world was the size of our town, truly.
Yes.
And with the internet and with the news and all of those technological advances, the world is shrinking.
Yes.
And do you think that the Rotary, with the exchange programs like Zoe has been on and Phil is on, do you think that helps or broadens the experience more than what we're getting from the news media and the computer?
I think so, because it's a real life experience. It's not something that's on Facebook, although I would have to say that most of our students who go on exchanges spend a good time on Facebook and connecting with people, and that's important too. But having a one-on-one connection with somebody, or even in a community, is so much different than experiencing it through the internet. It's just not the same.
And it has to be, you and I were talking a little bit before, Phil.
Yes.
I've done some traveling.
Yeah.
I've been to Germany and Australia and a bunch of different countries, but I stayed in hotels because I was a tourist and I was there for a week or 8 days. So how would you describe, or how would you try to tell me how my experiences would be different had I been an exchange student like you are versus being?
I think as an exchange student, you really break out of this tourist bubble, you could say. If you go to another country, maybe on a cruise or something, or you even if you stay there for 3 or 4 weeks, you really can't compare the experience to what an exchange student would experience in that country, just because you spend so much more time in the country, you get a so much more authentic experience. You might be in a place where you would normally not go. As a tourist from Germany, there's very little reason to say, hey, I'll go to Waupaca, Wisconsin. You'll probably end up in New York or San Francisco, and you really learn, hey, the United States is more than just that. No, they're the flyover states, one could say, which have to offer so much more, so many great things, cool sites, great people. So that would be the first thing, and then of course, get this really authentic experience. The language part, I mean, as you can tell, my English has also developed quite a bit since I've been here. So those are two main aspects, and then really this cultural understanding. I mean, Rotary Youth Exchange also historically, we just recently did a trivia on that. So
oh yes,
I'm a bit of the expert here. For example, in the 1960s, Rotary Youth Exchange, they, for the first time in history after the Second World War, did a reconnection with Germany and Japan after some very difficult relationships, and they set up the exchange, and students from Japan came to Germany, students from Germany went to Japan to kind of reconnect the countries again, and to really embrace that understanding and that value again. So that's a great example of how Rotary can really help solving some conflicts.
Yes. So thank you, Phil, for giving us that history.
I'm actually really glad you did, because I
Yes.
think you have a point. We talk about changing the world, but we talk about it in this huge global kind of form, when what you just said was the Rotary helped to change the world with students.
Yeah.
One exchange at a time.
Yeah. So Zoe, when you came back, did you find that a lot of people were interested in having the experience of being able to travel to a different country for a year like you did?
I didn't. I've always kind of noticed that. I guess before I left, we hosted 6 exchange students, and both of my older brothers went on exchange. So it's something we've kind of always promoted, and I've always wanted to do. So I try and talk my friends into it. Yeah.
Have any of them done it?
I don't know if there's any new ones since I've been back that I know of, but I've made a lot of friends in Rotary before I came. Yeah.
It's a great program. Now again, Cheryl, I just want to touch on, there's 2 different exchanges. There's the long term, which is 11 months, and then there's the short term summer.
Right.
Correct?
That's correct. And in January, January is the short-term exchange application process. So if you're interested in a short-term exchange, which would be through the summer, we would like to have those applications by January the 21st. You can get the application online, or you can go to the guidance counselor's office, and they'll have all that information there. And then usually the online application, which is separate, is due by February 1st.
Do I have to be a Rotary member, or do my parents need to be a Rotary member for me to go?
Absolutely not. You are a student between 15 and 18 years by the time you leave on exchange, and you have to have a curious mind, and you have to really want to have a new experience and just be open for new experiences.
So it's an application, but it's not something where it's impossible for an average student or somebody who's just interested to get involved in.
That's correct. So the short-term exchange you don't need a certain GPA. With the long-term exchange, you have to have a GPA of 3.75 or be in the top 50% of your class. And so the long-term exchange is just a little bit more parameters on it. The short-term exchange is more wide open.
Sounds good. Thank you guys for joining me today and talking about it. What an interesting topic. Thanks, Phil. Enjoy the rest of your time here.
I will.
Maybe you'll enjoy it so much you'll come back and visit.
Yeah, who knows?
You can tell everybody in Berlin I'm going to Waupaca, Wisconsin.
Yeah. That's what I'll do.
There you go. Thanks, Zoe, for being here. I like to talk to students who have been back and find out, just kind of how it changed their life and how they'll go on. And you're just entering your, college and adulthood and all of that kind of stuff. So it'll be interesting, I think, as years go on for yourself to see, oh yeah, I learned that, or my perspective is different. because of the time I spent. So
Mhm.
thanks for being here. Thank you, Cheryl, for joining us. I know it was a little last minute.
Well, thank you.
But I appreciate all of the information you shared with us today, and we'll have some more of the information available, so if somebody missed it or they want to write it down, they can do that as well.
Great. Well, thank you.
So
Thank you for hosting us.
thank you for joining us for this episode of What's Happening Waupaca. My name is Joni, and we'll be back next time.